I'll be muting myself now.
Yeah, I was wondering if you wanted to quickly introduce the future of text, the symposium, and the things that you've been doing for information-related things. I think that would be a nice start.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Just coming back on video for a minute. Yes, I was lucky enough way back in the 90s to meet Doug Engelbart after reading Howard Rheingold's book, Tools for Thought. I've been working on saving the world through better information interactions as is something shared in this community. This is narrowed down to focusing on text. So for the last 10 years, I have been hosting the annual Future of Text Symposium. Hi, Mark. And as a result of that, I've published and edited the book, The Future of Text. I'm also now working on a small book called The History of Text, which is basically timeline, but it's desperately needed, something that Mark Anderson is helping a lot with. And I'm also doing software, augmented text tools, easy to find online. If anybody here would like to try it, I'd be very happy to give you a free coupon. It's not very expensive anyway. And that's it. The reason for the work is I think it's important to think about text in the future. Obviously, you can't think about text in the past in the same way, so that's why it's the future of text. But we also need to implement, and that's why today I'm very happy to have Rafael introduce to the group a very related and very, very cool perspective on this. So yeah, fantastic.
All right, well, thank you so much, Frode, for inviting me to do this quick demonstration. It means a lot to us to be able to share what we've been doing with other people outside our close group of friends. So this is going to be the first time that we're presenting what we've been doing in the last many years, which I'll talk about quickly, to people outside, our circle. So we're going to have a quick demonstration of different methodologies and different ways that we think about information and how we organize information. And then at the end, we're going to open for questions, and then I'll hand it over back to Frode to do a quick closing. So if I come here, before we begin, obviously, I think there's an annotation by Adam. That's fine. So before we begin, everything you see is very early stages. It's basically our technical internal alpha. So everything is still under development. And what I would like to show you is based on this context of things are still in the beginning, okay? So what is Me? So Me is a project that was started in university, and it's both, it's not both, but it's three things actually. It's a tool, it's a browser, and it's also a methodology. But today, for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to be focusing only on the tool aspect of it. And to do that, I have to first mention Arthur Mee. That's where the name of the project of the company came from. Arthur Mee was an editor of the Children's Encyclopedia back in the 1910s. He was a very prominent figure, and pretty much people who lived in Europe, in London, during that time zone mentioned that it was a very important piece of like the encyclopedia was a very important part of their life, and they're very nostalgic when it comes to talking about it. And I discovered this book back in 2016, and basically when I found this encyclopedia, that's what gave me the kickstart to start organizing my thoughts and to putting it all onto a project. So it started as a journey to rethink education. Back when I was in university, I had a lot of conversations related to rethinking how we dealt with things related to education. And the more I researched about it, the more I found out that it wasn't actually about education, it was actually about learning. And the difference between education and learning from our point of view is that education is when you go to an institution and they teach you a specific curriculum. And when it comes down to learning, it's mostly based on your personal interests and your desire to go after knowledge, to learn more about things. So this is going to be focused on this context of learning. And then basically we took another step back and we learned that it's actually all related to information. If we make information better, more searchable, more organized, then people are going to have an easier time learning about the things that they're interested about. And it's also going to help teachers and educators prepare their curriculum in a better way. So, it's a way to make education a little bit better by focusing first on information. And it's also an area that not a lot of people pay a lot of attention to. And it's also one of the areas that we've been having the most problems with nowadays, with misinformation and disinformation. And quickly about me, you could sum up pretty much my life experience in 3 areas. I've played card games my whole life. I'm still going to keep playing them. And cards have been a part of my life. And I feel like they're going to keep following me around. Presentations as well. I've worked in presentations for a lot of big companies for the past 10 years. And I love creating presentations and organizing conferences. So I feel like this is also an area that is also going to be a part of my life for a long way. And also learning. As I was growing up, I had to change schools a bunch of times. And pretty much most of the time I had to go after my own learning because the curriculum kept changing, and I turned to the web to know more about the world and to find out about things that I was curious about. So I did a lot of search on Wikipedia. I watched a lot of TED Talks. There's this awesome website called lynda.com that I learned a lot about the digital tools. And also in this physical space, Little Zone is where I learned a lot as well. There's a lot of different tools. There's a makerspace. There's all sorts of things. So learning has always been a part of my life in the context of going after the information by myself. So this is the context that this presentation is happening. And it started in 2016 when I discovered this book. And I pretty much started getting these thoughts out of my head, and I started to create this visual mood board of information related to this project, right? Related to everything that I've come across, my experiences. And I wrote things down, I put them on the wall. And the process of making this wall, the structure or like the foundation of the project took, the whole of most of 2016, I would say about 9 months of 2016. And after I finished creating this visual board, throughout 2017, throughout the whole year of 2017, I started inviting people to my house, my friends, family members, to introduce them to this project. And throughout the whole year, I've had hundreds of conversations with different people. And after every conversation, we refined the project a little bit. We fixed some bugs. They always raise difficult questions of how were you going to solve something? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? And throughout the whole year, we refined. So it was a slow project to create the foundation. But after that was done, in the beginning of 2018, and actually, I'm very proud of the documentation we have since the beginning of the project. So all of the papers on the wall have been photographed and scanned and documented. And the first person I hired was a librarian. So throughout daily conversations, she wrote more than 300 pages of these conversations. And all of this documentation is scanned and organized and backed up in a bunch of different places. And our folder is already very, very big. And we've also had people from the team recording their experiences as they're developing the product, so that we have this documentation of how things were and how things are becoming, which I find is very important. And usually people tend to forget about that and only leave it for the future when it's very messy. So we try to do that as we're developing the project, which I quite like. So this is the first people that we ended up beginning with. I started as a designer, and then Guilherme on the left is the developer, and Paola is the librarian. And a lot of the foundations for this project started with library sciences. We started with library sciences because the web is very young, and we've had libraries and books for much, much, much longer. So librarians and library sciences, they have a lot more baggage to talk about information than the internet and the web, in my point of view. So we started from getting information from the past related to libraries and information sciences. And then in 2019, the team grew a little bit. We had, another developer, more designers, an illustrator. And as you can see, these are all young people. And most of the team are people who were fresh out of college and they want to work in this environment, in this context. So there's a lot of people interested in information, in knowledge, in text, and they want to do things about it. And I found that this project, me as a company, has been a great place for these people to come and to develop their skills while they work on something that is quite important. In 2018, we had a lot of people join because we actually got a government grant to develop. We were one of the few companies chosen to develop things related to COVID-19. And we went to try to solve the problem of misinformation and disinformation. So we had a boost of a great team during a period of 3 to 4 months last year. And there was a period where we managed to do a lot of things, and it was really, really fun. And then this year, the team we have right now is this team, mostly designers and developers. We have also a generalist and other people, but everybody is very young. Everybody is sub 30, with the exception of me and our finances, which is really good to see, because I feel people are coming with a fresh perspective on how to do things. And it's also a way so that these people can, grow up to be incredible professionals in the future, because the way we're developing me is not as a startup, it's more of a lifetime project, because it does take a lifetime to try to solve things related to knowledge, to information. And we can see from the people that came before us that it did indeed take a lifetime to work on these things. So that's where we're coming from. It will take a long time, but we'll get there. And we need people, to dedicate. And I want to start with this quote from Richard Saul Wurman, that you only understand something relative to something you already understand. And this is going to be the first part of our demo in order to introduce a little bit of how we search, and then how we're trying to solve some of the issues we have with dealing with information and the way we find information. So I'm going to close this presentation really quickly, and I'll go here over to, I'm just going to open a Chrome tab, and I'm going to look for The Hobbit. So let's say somebody recommended to me, oh, hey, you should read the book The Hobbit, right? And then you go to either Google or DuckDuckGo, and you search for The Hobbit. The first thing you're going to find is a Wikipedia article and IMDb. And then let's say you find, okay, so The Hobbit was written by Tolkien. So who is Tolkien? And then you start opening these tabs to find more information about the person. And then you find out that there's a movie called The Hobbit. So you open another tab and you go and look for The Hobbit trailer. And after you do this a little bit, you start to have like 10, 20 tabs open and going to all these different platforms to find different kinds of information that is all spread out in the web. And every single day, we have people researching about the same things. So imagine how many people search for The Hobbit every day. Like there's hundreds, thousands of people looking for The Hobbit, right? Because it's a good book. It's Tolkien was a genius, and there's a lot of good things to find out. So every day people are looking for the same things, and they start from the same place of not knowing, and they go through a process of finding more about it. But the problem is that the web isn't structured to find to build upon what came before. So everybody starts from scratch every single time. And that's a big problem, because there's a lot of wasted potential, and there's a lot of time being misused. If every time somebody searched for something, we could organize and structure it from different points of views, then the process of learning would be incredibly faster. It doesn't matter which area you're coming from. And then So these are some of the things that you end up finding when you search for things. You find text, you find images, you find videos, music, files, courses, movies, apps, calendars of events. So there's so many different kinds of information that lives on the web that, you know, it's hard to find sometimes. And it feels like every single day there's a different platform, there's a different website, there's something different happening. And the way we see things related to information is by modularizing them. So we're going to do another quick demo here to show how we end up dealing with this question. So if I leave here, let me close these tabs. The first demo I'm going to show you is actually the first time we used me as a platform to organize something that we were working on. And this exposition, The Lurid Beauty of Monsters, is an expo that we had here in Brazil a couple of years ago. It was by Tim Burton, and a lot of artists were invited to create art pieces for the presentation. And our studio was one of the studios that were invited to create these artworks. So the Little Zone, the physical space that I'm part of, they were invited, and I was part of the information architecture to organize everything that was being done for the project. So for this demo, I'm going to use a clicker. This is a Logitech Spotlight. And you can see right now that, you know, there's a big rectangle on top, and that's our card cover. And I can go down and I can go right and left. And the way this is organized is that you have different trails of content, and each rectangle is called a card. And if you combine all these cards and trails, they live on a board. So you have a board of trails and you have trails of cards. This first trail was used to organize all of the logos for this expo. And I can stop on any card, and this is a card template which holds images. So pretty much anything that you saw on that list can end up living inside of a card. And in these cards, I can press and hold my clicker to go in full screen mode. And while I'm in full screen mode, the analogy changes to, you know, to a presentation mode. So I can click to the right, and I'm passing different cards as I would present something. So here I'm bringing, you know, that experience with different cards from my childhood and the presentations for the conferences, and this is all integrated. So you can use it as a platform to organize information, but also to present information in the same environment. And I'm still using the clicker to go down and to go right. And this is a different card template that shows, you know, a photo. It shows the person's title and a little biography, their phone number, their email, and their website. And this is a way for you to organize information about people who are in a project. This is another card template for specs. And what I want to show you here is that these cards are not static. So if I double click on this card, then it flips. So when you flip a card, you find complementary information about that topic. So let's say, for example, there's a photographer and you have his beautiful photo on a card. And behind that card, you can find metadata about the photo. So the resolution, the file size, where it was taken, the copyright, the name of the person that shot that photo, a website to his portfolio. All these kinds of information can live behind the card. So it's always an interactive element of navigating, presenting, and organizing information all in one single place. That way you don't lose context of what you're seeing, and you end up acquiring more knowledge about what you're seeing. So there's always this element of front and back. And there's a bunch of different card templates that I want to show you, but I'm going to show you in this other demo. So in this other demo, it's an example related to education. And if I go down here a card, this is a trail that showcases different teachers and their bios. So it's the same card template as the one you saw before. And if I go down here, this is a card template related to calendar. So you can organize information related to events, tests, conferences. And in this area, there's an area for the name of the conference, what time and date it's going to happen in, and some information is related to this event. You can also add to your Google Calendar, and there's a big view so that you don't miss the date. So there's a bunch of different card templates related to the presentation. You can have different view modes as well. different card templates that we can work with is, for example, for view. So here we have YouTube links that you can watch. You can watch classes straight in your browser, in the same environment that you're organizing information. This way, you don't have to leave this environment to do other things. If you've compiled all the things you need in one single place, then you can, it's easier to find things in this context. These are cards related to downloading files. So all sorts of files that you can upload to the platform, you can also download. This is a map card, and it works just like you would expect as a Google Maps card. You know, you can zoom in, zoom out. And there's all of these cards here as well. Here, these are cards connected to education, so Google Classrooms. Basically, anything in the web that generates a link, we can create a card out of it and make it visual so that it's more immersive. And then after this demo, I'm going to go back here to the presentation to show you a little bit of this process. So this is what we're working with. This is the whole point of the platform, is to work with cards. After you combine cards, they create trails. After you combine trails, you have a board. And then the cards, they have a front and they have a back. Here's a mock-up of how we're planning on creating these meta informations. So you can add the creator, you can choose a template, you can see the creation date, you can add meta information for all these contexts. And also the flip animation, so you can interact with the card. And pretty much every card template will have a back of the card. So if it's a video, you can find more information about that video. If it's a photo, more information about the photo. If it's a book, more information about the author of the book. So it's always a combination of the front and the back of these cards. Also, these cards, you can go full screen. And once you go full screen, it's just like a normal website or like a Medium post. So you can scroll up and down if it's text, or you could, you know, have a better experience because you're going to be immersed in the content. And eventually we're going to have a big card library with, you know, hundreds of different card templates that we can combine and create. And that way, when you create your own board, you can choose the pieces and the cards you want to create exactly what you need for any kind of context that you're part of. And the process of creating cards is also very straightforward. So all of those media types that I've showed you, you can upload them from your computer. You can, if it's a website, you can just copy the link and create a link to a website. If there's a direct link, like a YouTube video, you can just copy the YouTube video and paste it directly in the card, and it'll create the card. And eventually, we're also going to create a browser plugin that you can gather things from the web, just like you would in Pinterest, for example. So a quick demo as well on how we create cards. Let me close this one and this one. This is an early prototype of the card creation process, but it's enough to showcase how we create these cards. So let's say, for example, let's go to Google Maps. And let's go to the Library of Alexandria. And then after I'm here, I can, you know, after I zoom in, the address changes when I zoom in and I zoom out. So depending on the zoom state that you choose, you can choose to copy this. And when you go back to the platform, you just click on the map icon, click on a new post. This is, you know, new card. And then you just paste it in. You can give a label, for example, Library of Alexandria, and you can choose to add a link as well. So if we look for the Library of Alexandria website, we can choose, let's just go with the Wikipedia link. Let's copy this link, and we can paste the link for the Wikipedia here, click done. And then we're going to have a card that is working already with the label. And if I click the label, it's going to open a new tab that takes me directly to the Wikipedia page for the Library of Alexandria. So the process of creating these cards is very straightforward. It's just, it's mostly paste or upload. If I create a new trail here and choose video, I can create a new card, and I just have to paste the video link. So let's go to YouTube and let's search for Library of Alexandria. Let's say, for example, I like this video from TED Education. I can just copy this link, paste it in here. And sometimes YouTube videos, they don't have a cover image or they don't have a title. So it's good to also add a label to these contexts. So let's go TED Ed Library of Alexandria, and then press enter, and that's it. So we have a label, we have the video, and it already works. If you press play, you can watch the video in the card. If I create another trail for example, files, I can just create a new card and then select a file from my computer. And I can select, for example, mockup here. And let's go with this one. If I open and it looks like my file is too big, oops. Let's go with the smaller one, this one. Basically, any file you upload from your computer, you can just create a card with the file, and then if I click, it's going to download this file, or open in a new tab. And the last one is related to images. So if I create a card, I can either paste an image from the web or select an image from my computer. Since I already selected an image from my computer, let's go to our website and just copy any images that are there. So let's go, for example, here and copy this image address. And I'm going to paste the image link right here. And then I can choose, again, to give this a label and to give this a link. If I choose not to and just click done, then I'm going to have a card, which is that image. And I can create another one if I want and select an image from my computer. Let's go again with that world, that globe, and then put globe here, press done. And I will have, a second card that is on my tray already. And I can already, press full screen to see it in full screen. In this case, since this image is transparent, you saw the black background. But if I go here on Anna's Bakery, then it works perfectly. So that's the process of creating these cards. It's going to be the easiest that we can make them, because we feel that organizing is one activity, compiling is another activity, and adding more information about things which you have compiled is another activity. So as you're navigating the web, you're going to use our browser plugin, or eventually when we have our own browser, you're going to start gathering these bits of information. They're going to go to a card stack, and then from this card stack, you start to distribute them into trails and boards. And then after you distribute them, you can reorganize cards inside trails and reorganize trails inside the board to organize the information the best way possible. And then after you do that, you can use the full screen mode to present what you have organized. Another very important aspect to the platform gets when you start to reach a complexity point. Let's say, for example, you have hundreds of cards in your board, and it's getting a little bit harder to find the things that you have organized. And that's where the navigation drawer comes in. So the navigation drawer is a place where you can search and filter for information and different tags. And you can also refine the information that you're searching for. So on these images here on the left, you can see that there's a search field, there's a filter bar, there's a navigation bar, and a sorting bar. So in the filter bar, you can filter by different media types, for example, photos or images or videos, websites, or news. And you can also use the search field to search for different meta information. So you can either go like hashtag presentations, and the cards that have the little metadata for hashtag presentation, they're going to show up in your navigation bar. And here's a closer view from doing a quick search for Monet in a board. And you can see that the card gets highlighted in yellow. So all of the cards that are found will be shown, and all of the cards that do not fit the search criteria, they're going to be hidden temporarily. And then this is an example of search information that is on the back of the card. So let's say, again, you search for Monet, and you can see that Monet was mentioned on the back of this painting of the water lily pond. So so the back of the card is used to find more information of the content that you're organizing. and the front of the card is used to present information in a more visual way and in a more immersive way. And then the table of contents, as you can see from this little GIF, when you click on different areas of this table of contents, it just navigates quickly to that trail. So if you have 20 trails, you just click on the trail and it goes straight to that trail. It works just like a book, right? You look at a book, you can click, on ebook, you can click on the chapter and then it will take you to that chapter. Also, the context of filtering that I talked about, as you can see, when you select different things in the navigation bar, only the cards that fit that criteria will be shown and all of the other cards will be hidden. So we're going to do a very quick demo of our internal alpha of some of these things working. And once again, this is all work in progress. We're still developing and we're going to continue developing pretty much for a long time. And there's a lot of things we want to integrate, but this is where we are at the moment. So I'm going to go here. Let me close this. Let me close this. So this is where you begin. We're going to log into my account. So here I'm logging into my account. Press continue. Let me put my password, log in. And as I log in, I reach my user cabinet. And the user cabinet is the area where you can create new boards so that you can start organizing and compiling content related to your research. And the example I want to show you is related to the project we worked before for the government grant related to COVID. And this is the one we're going to take a quick look. So as you click, you saw a little lazy loading, which means that as you're navigating, if you have hundreds and hundreds of cards, we don't want people to use data because you're not on that card yet. So as you're navigating, the cards will load on the background. And we're always loading the card after the second card. So for example, if I go down to this trail, you can see the text here on the card on the right. So if I click, there won't be any loading to this card, but pay attention to the right side as the new card comes up and it's going to lazy load into place. So as I'm looking at this content, the next one already loads. So we're constantly optimizing the load speed for the platform so that it's always fast, there's never any loading, and you always see the content instantly, which we find is very, very important for navigating through information. And it has to be done in a visual way so that it's more immersive and you feel part of that, right? And then all of the platform has also been built for touch. That's why everything is big, everything is very large. And in a tablet environment, you can imagine that it will be around like this. Like if I zoom in a little bit, if you're using an iPad or some other tablet, you're probably going to see the interface closer to this. And imagine if you touch and drag, it will work just like you expect. And here I navigate a little fast, so then the cards loaded as I was navigating. And if I click on a card in a diagonal, it'll also take me to that card. And the navigation as well here on the contents in the navigation bar, if I click, it'll navigate to that trail. So that's where we are at the moment. We're still integrating the other examples that I've showed. And pretty much that's what we have for this quick internal demo. Let me go back to the presentation, and we're almost done here in the last minute for the demo, and I'm going to open to questions. And a quick note on the methodology side. Basically, all of that documentation that we have gathered throughout all these years, we've been compiling it into something that we want to develop as a book, as a methodology that is a little independent from the platform. That way we can do courses, workshops, presentations, and also release a book of our process of how we've been doing things. And this methodology has been applied in 3 different contexts so far. We've used it to present a class on information architecture on the European Institute of Design. And that was for around 12 students. We also used it as a workshop for 10 startups built by women for Chicas Poderosas. And we also used it for another workshop for FIENG, which is the Federation of Industries of Minas Gerais here in Brazil. And it was for 20 startups in the industry area. And all of these workshops that we've given related to our methodology have been very praised, and people said that the experience was really, really good. So this is something we want to explore more of how we think about things and how we do things, and implement them into different enterprises, different institutions, or different companies. So I just want to close it off saying that, a tree starts as a seed, and what you've seen pretty much is the seed phase of our development. There's still a lot to do. There's a lifetime of things to dedicate to, and to continue developing and being part of this community of doing things related to information and to knowledge. I feel like it's one of the noblest causes to dedicate to, and that's something that I would completely, that's what I have planned, at least for my life. And that's it. I would like to thank everybody for coming and watching, and I will hand it over to Frode for questions.
Well, first of all, thank you. And now I know why you're wearing yellow today. It's your branding.
Exactly.
Do you maybe want to leave up a screen or a screenshot while we take questions to help us kind of focus and orient? Sure. And yeah, let's do digital hands for questions. Yeah, if we could do it spoken, since you've already written, Adam, do you mind speaking it out?
Mute. Hi. I wonder if learners will do anything on the cards. Will they be able to take notes or share the cards or annotate them or save them or discuss them in any way, or is it slightly more towards like the presenter, the service, like a teacher or so? Yeah.
That's a great question, Adam. Yes, people will be able to annotate their cards. You can think, for example, a card that is a quiz, and people have to answer like a multi-question or selection. And then you have another card that compiles those answers in a visual way. So the possibilities are infinite, but the moment that we're at right now, we're mostly focused on the presentation part, and all of the collaborative aspects will be developed in time.
Thank you.
That gives me a follow-up question then. Thanks for that. Is there a way for the cards to communicate to each other? So for instance, this quiz, can the results be shown on a graph on a different card as the person moves on, and multiple cards contribute to the same quiz maybe?
Yes, eventually we want to combine cards because they're all part of the same ecosystem. So you can use a card as a source and another card as a destination. So you can input data from one card and output it to another card.
I can see Mark Anderson's head. If I could annotate your screenshots, I will be writing HyperCard maybe.
So HyperCard is amazing. I found out about HyperCard like a year and a half ago. And when I found out about it, because it's not from my generation, right? You guys used it. And I fell in love with it instantly. And
this meeting is now over. Yes, exactly. Further questions or comments? Peter has raised his hand. Please go ahead, Peter.
Yes, have you considered the principle of personal visibility, allowing multiple people who might be on the same card from different locations to be aware that there are other people looking at that particular card, and then giving them the ability to open a communications channel directly?
Yeah, great question, Peter. So a lot of applications nowadays, they have these little face bubbles that you can see who else is working in the same environment. For example, the presentation that I made using Pitch, whenever I'm collaborating with other people, I can see which slide that person is looking at and what they're doing. So I totally see that as a possibility for me as well.
David.
Yeah, so for some reason, my hand raising icon doesn't appear in my version of Zoom, so to look into that. Great presentation, by the way, really enjoyed it. And I have a few questions, but the one that comes to mind is, well, first a comment. I don't know if you've given thought to this, Rafael, that you've actually created another type of digital storytelling application or scrollytelling application, which is a big thing. You know, it's sort of what's coming next with text, where you can tell a story with text, but integrated with images and videos and all kinds of, you know, multimedia. So it seems to me, so the question is, as far as sequencing cards left to right or top to bottom, is that something that you can just drag and drop things around and mix them up in whatever sequence you wish?
Yes, so all of the cards, you can reorganize them in a way that you want. So for example, you can use the navigation drawer to sort the cards in a trail so that, for example, you can organize it from A to Z, or you can organize it chronologically from when they were created. Or you can user define it, so you can present in the way that makes sense to you. And the other part of your question, when I presented this to some illustrator friends, they make comic books. They said, wow, I can make a narrative exploration of comics. So for example, if you want to open the door, you know, click here. If you want to continue in the corridor, click here. And then it'll take you to that other scene, which is just another card. And once you have that in full screen mode, you never see, it's like an immersive experience. You don't see that there are other possibilities, although you are in this, you know, this environment of a lot of possibilities.
So kind of almost like a video editing function. So the related question, so you didn't talk much about the collaboration possibilities, and I was thinking of Miro, M-I-R-O, which is taken off like millions of users around the world. And it has some of similar sharing of cards and information. Have you looked at that closely, and how do you see yourself fitting? Is it competing with them, or is it really a different use case?
Great question, David. So we don't see any platform as a competitor, because we feel that what we've done since the possibilities of cards, if you can generate a link from any kind of platform, you can create a card on me for that link. So if Miro is one of the platforms that works for you, you can use me as a complement to the whole of your information architecture. And you can have a card that links to your Miro board. And the way Miro has been doing things is as an open canvas. Some people prefer open canvas to organize and to structure ideas, and that's completely fine. But the path that we want to explore is a more organized and structured way in which you can refine information.
Jury.
Oh, very nice, Rafael, very nice. I got a couple of questions, so I try to be quick. Just responding to the Miro question, that's fine. Okay, I can link to anything out there. The point is, how are you gonna make Miro to link back? Because, you know, if I maintain something in Miro, I would like to be able to join the two up. Otherwise, it's just not really helping. So
I understand, Jerry, and that's something that we do not have the answer to yet, but I'm sure there's a lot of smart people in the community that could help me with that eventually.
Yeah, no, sure,
So,
sure. Yeah, no, I'm just saying that the key to that information architecture as you envisaged is exactly
yes.
that. Yeah, okay,
Exactly.
that was just responding to that. So it may be a long question. So what's the point? Why do you expect your own browser? I mean, that's quite a big undertaking. Even Google struggles with it. So I don't quite get that.
I agree. So the mention of a browser came as Bernardo, he's also here watching. He meant one day he came into the office and he said, me is a browser, because, you know, you're looking for things, and I see it as a browser because the presentation that I've showed you is basically a software, right? It's a tool. And where we want to get, imagine me as an encyclopedia, like you would go to a website and you would search for things. And as you're searching, you would see things instead of links, of drop-down links like you would see in Google, you would see different cards of information. So imagine if you could filter and refine everything that is already existing on the web. And in order to do that, it would be easier to do it as a browser and less as a platform.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that difficulty. Okay, the other question is same card in different contexts. Are you considering that, or what's your approach to that? So obviously I had created a card here in some context, but I may be working on another context where it is just as relevant.
Understood. So when you create a card, you can reuse that card in any number of boards. And if you go, for example, if you visit Mark's board and you found something that you liked, you can add that information, you can create a copy of that card to your own board. So you can start compiling things from different places to create your own view.
Yeah, the real question is because if you create a copy, you know, that anyhow, that really is a problem.
Here, okay, so we think a lot of transclusion and what, you know, Ted Nelson brought. And we really want to implement a way that if we have a source card, we can always mirror the information of the source card. And that goes back to what Frode asked of having a card for input and another card for output. So that's completely on our radar. We totally want to have transclusion on our cards because we feel it's very, very important.
Okay, just two more. So I'll just skip. Yeah. So where is the data stored that I create?
Everything is on Amazon Web Services nowadays. Unfortunately.
That's a big no-no. That's a big no-no. Nobody would trust their real work on Amazon. That's just a big no-no.
But that's something we don't have the ability to solve at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's okay. And just last question. Sorry, what about interconnections? So I mean, can you sort of see the whole the network that you're building, basically a graph network of these cards? So I think that probably needs visualizing at some level. You know,
I'm a huge fan of infographics. If eventually we can use the data of a whole board to generate something, that would be amazing. This is just the beginning, and every time I present to somebody, somebody brings new ideas of the possibilities. And I'm sure our user-generated feature request is going to be insanely huge.
Okay.
Knowledge graph is a goal.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. What was that, Ale?
Knowledge graph is a goal for us.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So Alexandre, he's one of our developers for the platform. So
right.
all of this input is really useful.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Mark, you and then Peter, since Peter's gone once before.
Hi. So Yuri sort of slightly touched on the sort of thing that I was thinking on. But first of all, I want to say really enjoyed the presentation, really interesting, and I see what you're doing there. And I was just wondering what scope there is for the viewer, the reader, whatever we're going to call them, to sort of move, basically almost follow their own trails. It seems to me, and in saying this, that's not critique, but just my understanding. So this is a curated trail. So when you interact with this, so you're following a deliberately created trail, and we're not trying to create an experience where someone says, "Oh, I want to go." You know, in other words, I want to just step off this line onto a completely different thing. So is my understanding correct there?
Yeah. So if I understood correctly, I would like the experience to be as immersive as possible. Mm-hmm. And part of the problem that we have on the web, because it's open, it's democratic, and people can create any kind of websites, is that in every website you go to, there's a different information architecture. It's a different layout, different buttons, different colors. Everything is completely different. So it feels like a new learning experience in every website that you go to. And that's totally fine. I completely approve that. But I would like, when you curate information, I would like the experience of the curation to be more leveled, to be more precise or more immersive. So in that context, what we would love to do is to connect to different APIs and to have a different visualization inside our platform. So that's what we're thinking.
Okay, thanks very much. And cool jacket too.
Thanks.
Peter.
Okay, are you aware of the work done on zoomable user interfaces at the University of Maryland College Park during the 1990s?
Please send me the paper.
Okay, I'll try to hunt that down for you. They had some systems where, let's say, they were Java-based technology at the time. So when Java started to lose its luster, the whole project faded away. And also, of course, the students who had programmed it at the time moved on and no one could understand the source code that they left. That's a big problem. Are you having the source code documented so that people will be able to follow it in case you lose the devs who actually worked on critical bits of code? And also, could you tell us anything about your backend implementation stack that might give us a couple ideas of things you might want to tie into it?
Yeah, so everything has been very, very well documented. We have multiple backups of what we've been doing. And for the backend, I guess I can throw this question over to Ale for him to answer a little bit about our stack and how we've been developing so far.
It's a pretty standard stack right now. It's, how could I put it? We have this concern that we would like to anyone who's starting or coming out of university to jump in the project without a steep learning curve. So we stick to what's the standard.
So as a complement to what he's saying, the way we've been developing is pretty much platform agnostic. So we would like that, any window, any size phone, any size tablet, any TV could pretty much run it. So we've been developing pretty much web native for now. We're not tied to any specific platform, but it's mostly,
So you're looking at Electron to be able to deploy a desktop app too, possibly?
I think.
Yes. Yes.
I guess that's a yes.
It's all React and serverless and lambdas.
I'd commend to your attention an emerging new language, shameless plug, but I'm really into it, called IMBA. Look at imba.io.
Wow. I'll
Okay,
look
that's
into
it.
that. Thank
Yuri,
you.
you're up.
Hello.
Yeah, Jury, please.
Just very quickly, you mentioned web native. Now, we really need to talk because web native is what phishing calls what they do, which basically means, what if the only thing you need is a browser? That gets you out of the problem of paying for it, storing privacy issues with Amazon. So please come to us and talk, because this is
Yes.
that's just nonsense. But if you have phishing, sorry.
We can totally have a conversation, Jerry, later.
Yeah. Okay. We just I'm triggered by the word web native, because they call it web native, which means, what if only thing you need is a browser, and all the things about security and encryption, everything is taken. So you basically move up a level. So basically, think about it. You don't need back-end developers. You can be full-edge developers. So what you're doing really should be like that. Yeah, okay.
To talk a little bit about privacy and the way we've been developing so far. So a company I worked for about like 8 years, not work for them, but I worked in their presentations, is a company called Gartner, which is a global research firm that does a lot of work for a lot of big companies. And, I was part of a lot of the presentations related to GDPR, and here in Brazil, we call it LGPD. And all of the topics, pretty much all of that checklist has been checked already. And we even want to get to a point that, we don't want to have, cookies, or we don't need people's information, pretty much. We want to know information about the content that we are researching more about. And, whatever you organize is your organization. We want to provide the best experience to organize information, and we don't want to have advertisements. I hate advertising. I completely hate it. And so we're trying to figure different ways to solve this issue of privacy, information, advertisement, and all these things. But it's something that we have a conversation pretty much weekly.
Adam,
Well, David raised his hand first, but a
go
quick
ahead, go
question then. How do you think about stability of the information? As I understand it, you bring in information or cards from many different sources, and things break very easily on the web. How do you plan to handle that or make sure that the cards get updated?
Completely valid point, Adam. We've been thinking about it in different ways. So for example, when a website dies, there's a high probability that archive.org has a copy of it. And the way we can do it as a platform is that we can save states. And if a website, or not the website, but if the link gets broken, we can at least save the meta information related to that information, to that context. So whatever is on our side, we can save a copy of it and keep alive. And whatever is outside, if it's dead, we can try to either send it to archive.org or remove the card or try to redirect somewhere. We're still exploring different ways of doing that, but some things we can take care of because it's inside the platform, and some things, websites die every second.
David, and we're almost out of time.
Yeah, just on that last point, Hypothesis, the annotation system, they don't store any of the content. And so for a product like yours, that's a big question. Are you going to store content, and in what form, especially web pages and so forth? But I wanted to, this maybe is a good last, if this is the end of the session. You started off talking about the distinction between education and learning, and then you jumped to information. And you didn't really talk very much about the learning science aspects of the system. And what struck me, of course, is that if you did a survey of people that write papers, many of them use 3x5 file cards, even today, put them on their desk and move them around, right? And I'm wondering if you've either looked into the research about how people organize information using file cards, and B, has anybody played around with your current version of Me to write a paper based on doing, extensive research, not just a few papers, but like an actual, journal article or something, because it would seem to be an effective approach.
Got it, David. So on the learning aspect, yes, especially in the education and learning, there's a lot of different projects and a lot of different people doing things on those areas. And I would love to see somebody from academia to talk about this context of using Me as a platform to write a paper. That would be incredible. And since the project is based a lot on library sciences, I totally understand, the library card aspect of it. I have a lot of them. I use them every single day. I love them. Mm-hmm. And as I quickly mentioned on the the methodology part, this is also something that we've been working with, of organizing information not only on tables but also on walls, as you can see behind me, and also organizing things digitally. So I'm very interested in the combination of physical plus digital. And look, at Fred received the card catalog.
Well, so it's very interesting. I've been reading through all of the essays in the future of text, and I'm at the last 5th. Okay. Very, very fascinating. And many of the essays talk about, let's not abandon the past, because the hands-on physical touching activates different parts of the brain. And a lot of people saying the future of text is going to be a hybrid kind of thing. So that's another thing to look at, is your system with actual, tactile cards and so forth. So printing out your cards, playing with them, and then reorganizing them. So at any rate, that's a whole area to look at too.
You can bet on that, David. We're completely it was physical from the beginning. It's going to continue to be physical, combining with digital. So a quick
Yeah.
example would be if you go to the museum and there's a me card next to a painting, and maybe there's some way of scanning that card, it would take you directly to a board related to that painting. So I'm always interested in this interaction between physical and digital, and how we interact with information in different mediums.
Look at Moleskin is doing that now, right? With their notebooks where you can write something and it digitizes automatically. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
they use a third-party technology. It's interesting. And Peter is just writing here in the notes, QR codes on all the cards. Absolutely. There are many ways to merge these two. But of course, Rafael, at some point, when people copy from the card, they have to copy it with visual meta, right?
Exactly,
That's
Todd.
right.
I wouldn't think otherwise.
Yeah,
Right.
to be able to move it around. I had an interesting call right before this meeting with Gordon Brander, who is developing a very interesting, also card-based way of thinking. And whenever I talk to Alan Kay, he always says, when you look at Doug's ideas, you keep forgetting that these were units of thoughts. It's not just plain text down. So I think you are definitely writing the right kind of zeitgeist in a good way. It's very related, as you know, to what Yuri is doing too. And I think that in this community, to solve the problems of where to store and link is exactly the kind of problems we can solve, while also looking into how we can properly do connected thinking. So on that note, any final important question for Rafael, or any final comments? I see Yuri.
I just put it in the chat. This amazing talk about Brett Victor, the human representation of thought, because that's exactly what he's talking about. So how that we only eyes, ears, and we love the text. So he had a big program started 5 years ago to do exactly that. They actually got it so that it's sort of you got this sort of tactile thing. Please check it out. That's definitely the best I ever
Thank you,
seen.
Jerry.
Thank
I
you.
will check it out.
Of course, that relates to memory palaces and has a very interesting and useful history. I look forward to seeing whoever is interested on Monday and next Friday and next Monday and next Friday and next Monday and next Friday. But I thank you very much for the special presentation today, Rafael. Rafael, would you like to stick around a little bit more with some of your specific interested people, or are we finished?
I think we can close it for now, and then if it comes down to it, we can continue the conversation some other time.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And for everyone, this link is the one we always use on our Mondays and Fridays. And for those of you who are involved in the Future of Text project, we are meeting also on Tuesday for our monthly meeting, where I will be prodding for, let's do some more marketing for the book. So you are all, of course, welcome to that. And have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.